My name is Rochelle Haynes. I'm the Managing Director of Bloomberg Philanthropies, What Works Cities. In this role, I have the pleasure of working with over 200 cities in North, Central, and South America on how to build strong data and evidence-based practices. So what does that mean? How do I help those cities think about their assets, but also think about the areas where they have gaps and help them be able to fill those gaps by providing free technical assistance, resources, and a wonderful peer network that helps them think about what are the best ways to approach issues that they're challenged with. How do we create an environment where cities can learn from one another? City government has an opportunity to revolutionize how they actually show up and operate and deliver services for residents. What I love about the conversation we're having now around AI is everyone actually is talking about the community. And not only how are you letting your community know that you're using AI technology for government services, but also thinking about, is there an AI tool or technology that can support a community level need? And so the communities that are developing technology that's connecting are the ones that are having those conversations with their residents. They're getting their residents' feedback from the beginning. One example I highlight is San Jose, which is, we all know, at the forefront of the AI revolution. They rolled out a translation tool, and they thought the tool was great. They got resident feedback. It was actually culturally insensitive and giving responses that were inaccurate. And the city didn't run away from that. They embraced the fact that, okay, we didn't get it right, and started to have workshops with their community residents and hear from them what would be the best way to respond to this. And then they incorporated those changes in the next version of the translation tool. And so to me, when I think about AI and I think about community-centered technology, it's about how are you engaging your residents in the conversation, being transparent, being open, and being also willing to pivot to make sure that what you're deploying actually connects and is useful to your residents. For me, watching this government and innovation field transform has now led residents to expect to be engaged. Gone are the days where residents think that you just can deploy something as a city government and they're just going to say, okay, this is how it works. Residents expect now. They also know they can leverage that open data portal and take a look and see how government services are responding. And I think that's shifted the conversation. And so now residents expect to be engaged. I also feel that cities have gotten more comfortable with transparency and accountability and recognizing that it's not a gotcha moment. Is actually a moment to engage and make services better, which is what brings everyone to the work at the end of the day. I think the best cross-sector partnerships start with a common goal. And so for cities, it's being able to identify what are you challenged by and who are the best stakeholders in your community that can help you with that challenge. Whether it is an academic institution, whether it's a private sector department that you need, whether it's a community-based organization. So for example, in Recife, Brazil, they were having issues with flooding, and that flooding was impacting vulnerable communities the most. And so they partnered with a private sector technology company to say, wait a minute, there might be a solution here, particularly an AI-driven solution, to be able to identify and help us better predict floods. And so that's an example of where a city had a challenge. They wanted to address their resident needs and were able to say, hey, let's partner together to solve this common issue. And so now they actually have flood detection sensors. They use those sensors to be able to predict when floods are going to happen. They're able to let their residents know in advance. They can evacuate those residents sooner rather than later. And so you're saving lives and you're having quicker emergency response. That's like one example of where when you partner need in a community with a private sector company that also is trying to do good with new advanced technology to solve a common problem. When cities want to work on engaging communities, the first thing is you have to do it thoughtfully and intentionally. Residents in the community should be at the forefront of any strategy that you're creating and being able to have resident voices up front before it's fully designed. And so one of our cities, I love what they do, it's Port St. Lucie, Florida. For their strategic plan, they actually hold an open block party. They have food, they have games. Folks can bring their kids, but what they do is they have these life-size poster boards of their actual strategic plan. And they ask the residents to walk through and leave sticky notes and leave ideas. And so it's a really thoughtful way to get that qualitative data from their residents. And then what they do is they actually incorporate that data into their final strategic plan. So really thinking about, are we as a city meeting the needs of our residents? Are the priorities that we think are important, are those the same as our residents? And more often than not, you won't be surprised that a lot of times new issues emerge because you're now kind of democratizing how people can engage with you and going to them versus sort of expecting residents to come to you, which is really important when you think about thoughtful community engagement. Leadership is everything. This is not just about technology. This is about leaders who understand the needs of their community, the needs of government operations, and are saying, how do I thoughtfully build a culture that is data-driven, that focuses on governance, transparency, and accountability? And so the leaders that stand out in our network are the ones who come into office with that frame of mind and build that culture for their teams. And so they're not just saying data is important, they're leveraging data internally to guide their decisions on priority. They're also leveraging data with their residents to be able to meet the needs and fill gaps. What I admire the most right now about our leaders, particularly city leaders, is they're leaning in. Leaders understand that they don't want to be left behind this time. And so they understand for them to get their cities in the places that they want it to be, for there to have government operations that actually serve people, they have to lead what this design of the future will look like and design the cities of the future. And technology is a tool in that, but any of your plans live or die with the leadership that you have in place and their ability to execute on that.